Recounting a true event is relatively easy, but keeping track of a bunch of made-up stories is difficult. Liars end up exposing themselves over time, by contradicting themselves with other lies. 7. Do not get involved in petty feuds and drama. Most people like to keep arguments solely in the realms of themselves, and whoever they are arguing with. Toxic people aren't like that. They love to air their dirty laundry in public, and when an argument breaks out, they want everybody to pick a side. It doesn't matter if you're involved or not. It barely matters if you even know the two people involved. A toxic person will not allow you to remain neutral. Often fights between one or more toxic people can be cataclysmic, and it's the innocent bystanders caught in the crossfire that will suffer the most. There are 6 words that will save you from being sucked into the storm in a teacup that comes when toxic people argue. It's nothing to do with me. 8. Ignore insults. Insults come in many forms, but the most cleverly disguised insults are actually disguised as compliments. I'd never have the confidence to wear that. You're so funny, and you don't even realize it. You're such a nice person. These are just a few thinly veiled insults that will leave you wondering what they actually meant, which in turn leaves you seeking approval, and finally your emotions will get affected. 9. Do not indulge self-pitying people. Toxic people will often put on a mask of helplessness in order to trick and manipulate people, or emancipate themselves from responsibility. You'll often hear a toxic person saying that they can't pay you back because they can't find a job, and they can't find a job because they haven't got any qualifications, and they haven't got any qualifications because their teachers mistreated them at school.
How do you learn a subject or skill in half the time?
There is always a reason for their failure which is out of their hands, and it is always up to you to sort it out. And if you don't, well, then you're just the same as everybody else who's mistreated them throughout the terrible ordeal that is their life. Some level of self-pity is totally healthy, after a nasty breakup, a death in the family or something similar, but there is always a point where you have to grow up and accept responsibility for your own destiny, because it's nobody else's job but yours. Self-pitying people live in a vacuous maelstrom of misery, and make absolutely no effort to effect any change in their lives. Avoiding self-pitying people and refusing to justify their apathy is not only good for them, but will stop you from being sucked into their depressing world of self-perpetuating failure. 10. Do not indulge narcissists. Narcissists love themselves. Or perhaps more accurately, they love the idea of themselves. They are often so deluded in their own favor that they genuinely lose touch with reality. Narcissists will often fish for compliments, often by pretending that they do not feel so highly about themselves. They will often take numerous pictures of themselves and constantly seek comment on them. The best way to deal with a narcissist is to simply ignore their insatiable appetite for gratification. You do not have to criticize them or try to make them feel bad, but by simply ignoring them, you will help to remind them that we are all human, and our lives are all equally meaningful. 11. Demand straight answers to their questions. Toxic people will often go out of their way to give arbitrary, vague, non-committal or misleading answers to questions. Just ask anybody who's ever been involved in the criminal justice system. The lengths a toxic person will go to avoid giving a satisfactory answer are incredible. This is done not just to withhold information, but also to prevent anybody from telling them they've backtracked later. The trick to getting around this is to present them with only closed questions, that is, a question with a yes or no answer. This will force them to make their intentions clear, and prevent them from playing mind games with you or others. 12. Tell them when they are at fault. Toxic people will do almost anything to absolve themselves from blame. Even if they are clearly at fault, they will justify their actions by bringing up something somebody else has done. Handling toxic people cleverly means telling them they are at fault, and refusing to accept their excuses. This can be difficult to do when they are being evasive, but ultimately it will help them to grow. 13. Don't be flattered over false kindness. There is an old African saying, beware of a naked man who offers you a shirt. Effectively, it means that you cannot accept something from somebody who is in no position to give it. Namely, compliments and gestures of love. Toxic people will often try to win over certain people by showering them with compliments. This is often done because they want something from you, or you present some kind of a threat to them. You may notice that they are not nearly so complimentary of others around them. Perhaps they are rude to customer service staff or abrasive towards strangers. Do not be fooled into believing that this person genuinely likes you, or that they are actually a nice person. They are just trying to get something from you. 14. Have control of your... Toxic people will try to manipulate people's emotions near a social group to suit their needs. In order to avoid this, clever people make sure that they are aware of the emotions they are feeling, and the root causes of why they are feeling them, in order to ensure that they are the only person in control of them. This is easiest